Hello everybody, welcome back to Dev Actualize. Today we're going through the usage of Memo within React and what it is and why it's important. So Memo is what we call a higher order component, or hawk, which is essentially a function that wraps a component and adds some additional behavior or logic. So basically what Memo does is it memoizes or remembers the rendered output of a functional component and only re-renders when its props change. And basically it optimizes the performance by reducing unnecessary re-renders. So I've just got a simple React app set up here, and it's just showing various stocks here. And these stocks are obtained from just some state that gets started here. They all get started as 5, but when the component when the file loads, basically next day gets ran, and next day calculates. It does a bunch of calculation, and it sets all the different pieces of state based off of that. So it shuffles the data around. It shuffles all the data around, and it also randomizes their numbers, what their new numbers are going to be. And then it sorts it based off of the highest growing stocks, and then the moderate growing stocks, and then the lowest growing stocks. So how does this work? So basically we have this parent component and our 3 children components here, and they're over here. And then in this child component, stock tracker, the stocks are just mapped over, and we can see the stock name and the stock growth rate. So every single time that I refresh, or I've got this little button here, refresh, and it is refreshing the dashboard. So it's just updating the state in the parent component, app.js, or stock dashboard. It's just updating the state of refresh count. It's adding 1 to it. And as you know, every single time you update really anything in the parent component, the children components get re-rendered as well. So in our child component stock tracker, I just have a console log that is going to log to the console on every rendered. So if we look right now at the console, now I'm just going to refresh this. There's a lot of initial renders, and that's just because there's a lot of state being set in here, so don't worry about that. There's 12 there, but just watch how this works. So every single time I press refresh dashboard, we get more and more renders, right? And so that can be a hindrance to performance. So how do we solve this? Well, we solve it with just Memo coming from React. And again, it's just going to wrap the child component down here. And if we save that now and go to and refresh, so we get our initial 12, which is what we were expecting before. But now when we update the dashboard, which is the parent component, we've just updated it 14 times. The child hasn't re-rendered because it's been frozen. It's basically been frozen. And the only time that it will re-render is when either one of its props change. So right now we have stock name, which is coming in. That's going to be static every single time because it's passed in just statically. But if stocks change, which again, this is the fastest growing stocks, so the top 5, and then these are the middle half of the top 5, and then the last one is the lowest half, or the lowest third, sorry. So when stocks get updated, that means that hopefully the child should be re-rendered as well. So if I pressed next day, which is just a little button here, and it's going to trigger all this calculation, and it's going to update all this state here, fastest growing, moderate growth, and negative growth, and that's going to update the props, the stocks props, and hopefully we should see more renders down here. So now it's rendering. And that's because we want that because we want our children components to render only when necessary, but also, or not render all the time, but render only when necessary when their props change. So that's been Memo. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you have learned anything.